welcome to the Bruins Benders podcast, season ending Game 7 recap with Maddie and Smitty. Brought to you on the Inside the Rink Podcast Network. InsideTheRink.com is your one-stop shop for all your NHL and ECHL news, insight, and analysis. Follow on Twitter at inside_the_rink. Download the Inside the Rink app. Subscribe to Inside the Rink's YouTube. Smitty will tell us how to sign up for ESPN Plus because you'll have other things to watch.
Yeah, you could sign up for ESPN Plus and watch all kinds of other sports. You could sign up on the Inside the Rink website. Go to insidetherink.com/ESPN. I have ESPN Plus. I won't be watching any playoff hockey, but you can watch college sports and much, much more on there. So sign up at ESPN Plus for ESPN Plus at insidetherink.com/ESPN if you feel like it.
Yeah, sure. Season 2, episode 35. Abruptly ending this season. Game review, 4-3 loss in overtime to Florida. Too many missed opportunities, as has been the case for the last few games of this series. Too many bad plays with the puck. They lose 3 in a row at home. Just not enough killer instinct, too, which to me was the most mind-boggling part of it.
They had a bunch of chances to end the game, end games, and end series. Bobrovsky makes a save on Pastrnak in Game 5, I believe it was, where he has a breakaway, could have put the Bruins up 2. He makes a save on Marchand at the end of regulation that could have won the game for the Bruins and ended the series. Bruins have a 3-2 lead at the end of regulation. Florida scores with the goalie pulled to tie it and then win it in overtime. Just too many missed opportunities, too careless with the puck over and over again all series. We said if they were good with the puck, if they took care of the puck, they would win the series. They were not, and they did not. And it's as simple as that. Florida was the better team all series long. The Bruins had their moments, but clearly not enough of them.
Yeah, Florida healthy for the first time in a while. Getting Sam Bennett back was big for them, but still, the Bruins up 3-1 in the series, and we'll get to it in a bit. But it just seemed like they never changed the way they were playing. They did it a little bit there in the second and into the third, but that's when they scored, and then they started to. For much of the third period, I thought they had more support. Like a teammate was standing right in the area of another teammate. And if he coughed it up, then the other teammate kind of cleaned it up. Like it looked more like what they played like. But then again, as soon as they give up the goal, and of course that as soon as they just went into the shell as soon as Florida pulled the goalie. They were really in command, the Bruins were, not really allowing anything and even getting their own chances. Mm-hmm. And as soon as the goalie was pulled, the 4 guys stood in front of the net. Like, they didn't react to the puck. They didn't do much of anything. They just sort of stood there for dear life and were just created this convoy in front of Swayman. But the problem was that they gave up a short side goal, and then they can't restart. And in the overtime, they didn't really have much opportunity. Florida just kind of took it to them, and then it was over.
Yeah.
To me, it's mind-boggling. It's frustrating. It's stunning. It's a lot of things. It's shocking. It's just a lot of things. But alas, Seven Chirps is brought to you by Lops Brewing, Lobster Brewing and Tasting Room in downtown Woonsocket, Rhode Island, specializing in small batch ales and lagers. Open 7 days a week. Use the coupon code SPORTS to get 10% off your online order. Go to lopsbrewing.com. Follow them at Lops Brewing for new beers and events. Chirp 1, 2022-23 Bruins. Biggest failure in sports history?
That's a little steep. That's
How about
a little
Boston sports history.
Boston sports history. They didn't even get to the Cup Finals, so maybe that makes it worse. Because they had a historic regular season and they lost in round 1. Maybe that makes it worse. I don't know. Does losing a Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals at home feel worse than this? Probably.
That felt really bad.
Probably.
Really bad.
So
here's the thing about Game 7. They had won Game 6 in 2019, came home, and you thought, okay, they're going to win the series now. Mm-hmm. This was sort of a, stumbling down the hill. Like you saw this coming 4 days ago. You know what I mean? Like this is...
In Bruins history, it's up there. 100%. Sure. It's up there. In Boston sports history, I mean, it's 17-0 regular season Patriots.
Right.
17-0 Patriots going into the
Yeah.
Super Bowl. It's Buck in
Oh, three
between the
Red
legs. It's
Sox.
Bucky
Yeah.
Dent. It's
Yeah.
it's up there. It's in the top 10 for sure.
Sure. Oh God, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a monumental collapse. I mean, you're up 3-1 in the series. You have control of the series, and you were the greatest regular season team in the history of the league. So yeah, it's up there.
And you had
Uh,
two home games to win it.
right.
Yeah.
And they didn't do enough when it really mattered to close out the Panthers. And you have to give the Panthers credit. They battled and battled and battled. Anytime they got down, they had a big push, and they seemed to get the goal and make the plays that they needed to make. And Matty Tkachuk, as much as you hate the fucking guy, was a huge part of it.
Sure.
He kind of wins the puck battle down low there in overtime. I mean, he scored an overtime winner in game, what was it, game 5? Game 6? Game 5? They're all
Game
blended.
5.
Yeah, game 5. They're all
Yeah.
blended
Yeah.
together with me now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was a big part of it, and
Yeah, he
his
called
kind
the
of
shot. He was
yeah,
Mark Messier. He called the shot. He said,
his kind of
"We're gonna come
will,
back."
to win, and pulling the team along with him. Kind of, that's why they traded for the guy.
Right.
They were the President's Trophy winners last year, and lost early on in the season. So,
How about that? They were the President's Trophy winner last year, and then make an enormous blockbuster trade to get him. Like they
yeah,
weren't satisfied. Like they weren't like, you know what, shit happens. We'll make another run at it. No, they made a franchise altering trade,
they
and
did.
then come back and they don't really. I mean, they squeak in,
Hmm.
but now they seem to be more playoff ready, more
Yeah,
playoff grizzled team.
absolutely.
And he pulled the Messier in '94. Called the shot and started talking about it in the dressing room. And then here you have it. The Bruins, Jack and Brick have been talking about the will to win the Bruins have had all year. I didn't see it. I didn't see it toward the end. I don't know what happened. Why not? Like, why not? It's hard to fathom. It really is. Chirp 2, how much of an effect did changing lines and seeming to overcoach start the downfall in Game 5 when they had won 2 road games and seemed to have the Panthers on the ropes? It's all over. And then you come in without Bergeron and Marchand together, you fall 1-0 early, and now you're chasing the game the whole way.
Yeah, I didn't love it. I didn't love it at the time. I don't know why you don't just go with what was working for you. Stick with what worked for you all year. All of a sudden, you have a lead, or whatever, a tied series. It's tied 2-2. 3-1. You're up 3-1.
And they had
Yeah,
won
you're up
the 2
3-1,
games
and
pretty
now
handily.
and now all of a sudden you're just changing everything up for no apparent reason. You should have been sticking with what got you there, and instead they kind of overcorrect everything, and it cost them. It did. They were out of sync at the beginning of Game 5, and like you said, then Florida scores and you're chasing.
Yeah.
We can talk about Montgomery probably more in the offseason, because there's going to be a lot to dissect as we move forward. But what did he kind of the moment seemed to be maybe a little too big for him here?
Yeah, it's I don't coach hockey. I don't whatever, but it just seemed like it did seem a little too big. He was a 1-game-7 before with Dallas. They lost in double overtime, but that wasn't a team that won 65 games. Like, this was a lot was at stake here with Bergeron and Krejci, and they're coming back for one more ride, and you're thrust into it, and it's a really talented team. Then they sell out and get 3 quality players. Like, they are going for it. And then, it just seemed like they almost, and I mentioned this last episode, like, it almost seemed like they had too much depth. Like, he didn't know who to play, and it was too much moving around and trying to pick this guy over that guy and this guy over that guy, and taking Grzelcyk out, who was fine, and then bringing Clifton in. But why? Like, and then Clifton just is absolutely dreadful. So I don't understand. And the whole goalie situation, which I agreed with sticking with Almar because he's your Vezina Trophy winner probably, and he's your guy. So if he's healthy, like you say he is, then play him. But then once he started taking on water and gave up 4 goals and then 5 goals, like, okay, like, you got to maybe make a move there, or something, to change it up. Then you throw in Swayman in Game 7, cold, hadn't started since April 13th, and he gives up a softie early, and you're down again. And it just seemed like any move they made was just an overthink or the wrong one, and then it just sort of piled up on him. And I
Mhm.
just, it's a fair thing to ask, and we'll talk about it more, going forward. But it's a fair thing to ask if that's, it was a little bit too much for Monty there, or if he needed to learn some things here. Chirp 3, Bruins seemed to be mentally in and out. Was the 65 win record, the chasing the 65 win record, detrimental?
It absolutely was. It
Yeah, it
absolutely
100%
was.
was.
And we said at the time, we said it, when they clinched, they should have started resting guys. McAvoy, played ton of minutes in the postseason. Been great for him all year. He looked tired down the stretch. He wasn't playing great. And he looked a little tired and out of sorts in the playoffs. Like, he really didn't have a good playoff. Not a lot of guys did. Lindholm didn't really either. He didn't really rest much down the stretch. The defense as a whole, like, they were rotating guys, but it wasn't the right guys. Like, it wasn't the guys who needed the rest that they were rotating in and out of the lineup. It was the bottom guys who aren't going to play that fucking much in the playoffs anyways.
Right.
So
Right.
why are you resting guys that don't need the rest? Rest the
Right.
guys that you're going to rely on heavily come the postseason.
Right.
And they didn't do that.
They
So
didn't
that's
do that.
another second guess maybe for
Yeah.
the coaching staff. Were you resting the right guys when you had the things sewn up in the regular season?
Right.
I don't think you were.
No, I decide who you're going with, and then those guys get some rest, and the other guys play. Like, the other guys you think might not play unless there's an injury, you put them in there. But they're switching around Grzelcyk and Clifton and Forbort and Zaboral and all these guys. Like, when McAvoy's just logging all these minutes, Orlov,
Yeah.
Lindholm, who was a shell of himself in this series, and in the forward group too. Like, it's just. There's a lot of second guessing and a tremendous amount, and it's going to continue. It's just a real, you could say it's a franchise-altering kind of loss because you don't know what going forward is going to be about. So you put all your eggs in the basket, and then just, he choked it away. All right, Chirp 4, is this the last time we see Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci? Bergeron teared up when he embraced Marchand leaving the ice, gave a final twirl. What is your guess?
You know what? I thought Bergeron was going to come back after watching that. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
After watching that, he was tearing up when he embraced Bergeron and then gave kind of a final little twirl and a salute to the crowd. To me, that looked like a guy who played his last game. It did. And I think Krejci is done as well. Like, I think he came back for one kind of final kick at the can with the guys, and they kind of maybe convinced him to do it. But yeah, I think those guys are gone, and you're looking at an entirely different team next year. So it's sad to see that it had to end that way. But Bergeron and Marchand both in this game, both -2. I mean.
Yeah. Marchand at the beginning of the game, like he was a lot of the culprit and turning the puck over inside the blue line, and just trying to make plays that aren't there. And we've talked about Marchand being off his game for the last couple of months, and actually never really being totally right. But he was producing stats wise. You look at the stats and say, he's having a good year that anybody else would love. But it just seems as though he's lost his. The possession game and winning puck battles, not winning as much anymore. He's getting older. I mean, he was hurt, and he's coming off 2 hips. And we've talked about how we think he's going to play out this contract and be done.
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting toward the end here. I mean, it's been a long time. 12 seasons ago, they won the Cup. So Marchand was a guy that, he wasn't at the top of his game. Krejci, came through today. He seems to find a way to get a goal or an assist, like in a big playoff game. But he is toward the end of not being able to play NHL hockey anymore. Like, he can't skate that well, and it's really difficult for him to compete, especially in the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, it was just I think Bergeron is probably 70-30 gone. I think he might be able to be convinced after he sort of thinks about this and spends some summer with his family. I thought Krejci was done 2 months ago. Like I think he's done. He's not coming back. But and you know what? And it sounds terrible of me because I'm a big David Krejci fan, and he was a terrific player for them. I don't know if I want him back for another. I think it's time to move on. Yeah, I think it's time to move on from David Krejci now, and we can have his night, and everybody can be happy and remember him fondly, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I was all ready tonight. I was all ready when they had the lead. I was like, playoff Krejci was back in Game 7. I mean, he had 3 points tonight.
Yeah, boom.
He was excellent tonight. Leading up to this, not much, but tonight he was excellent. And I'm like, I was all ready to be like playoff Kretsch. That's what you want. He was in the lineup. He produced, and you found a way to win a big Game 7. Alas, they cough it up late and then lose it in overtime. So not the way you want things then.
I was ready for when Bertuzzi scored. I mean, Bertuzzi was terrific. I mean, he had 5 goals and 5 assists. I mean, he was so good in the series and such a great addition. I hope they keep him. But I was wondering, who was the last Conn Smythe Trophy winner to be a trade deadline acquisition? Like, I was wondering, how many of those have there been? Because I'm just thinking ahead, which I shouldn't have, so it's my fault, everyone. They lost because of me. But, I think that was something I thought of. Like, when was the last time a guy was picked up at the deadline and then won the Conn Smythe? Like, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
All right, Chirp 5, how much value do you put on the record-breaking regular season?
None.
I don't either. I don't give a rat's ass.
Could care less.
Yeah.
Could care less. I honestly, right now, I don't want their name in the record book. I don't give it to someone else. I don't want it because there's going to be a little thing next to all these other teams with an asterisk that said one Stanley Cup, and this team's not going to have that. So I could give 2 shits right now. Right. Take them out of the fucking rule book, the record book. As far as I'm concerned, I don't want it. I don't want it.
I'm with you. I just don't think it means a damn. In fact, it makes it worse. To be honest,
it does make it worse.
But I think it's a big reason why they lost.
I think so too. I think they felt the pressure, especially after they lost Game 6. They felt the pressure, and we both said that this was exactly the way it was going to play out. Florida was going to kick one in early. Yeah. They would get down. I said they would go down 2-0. You said 3-0. And then I said they'd get one back and then get an empty netter. So we were wrong about that part. But the getting down early part, then the building goes quiet, and then they finally pulled one back on the power play, and it got the place jumping again. And then obviously tied it, took the lead, all that stuff. But it played out just how we thought it would overall, and just not good enough. Just not good enough.
Before the series started, if I told you in the first series that the Bruins would score 11 power play goals, you would say, "Oh Jesus, they won in a sweep."
Yeah.
Right. I mean, after all the talk about the power play all year long, they scored 11 power play goals in the 7 games.
Yeah.
And 2 tonight, and didn't.
They scored enough goals to win the series.
They did.
They scored enough goals to win the series.
They did.
But they just had egregious defensive zone turnovers and mind farts and fuck ups and all of that. And it cost them the fucking series. It did. It cost them the series. Too many self-inflicted wounds cost them the series. They scored enough to win.
Did Charlie McAvoy just inexplicably make a stupid-ass play in his own end? There were so many times that Swayman had to make a save because McAvoy would just, at the last second, try to make a pass through a stick, deflected, still in the zone. What the hell are you doing? It's just, I don't know. It's just, it was mind-boggling to me. It's probably the pressure. It's probably the stakes. But then when they take the lead, I thought that it really looked like they took the pressure off themselves. They're like, okay, we can do this. And then it didn't happen. All right, chirp number 6. Here's the question of the night. If Bruce Cassidy is the coach with this amount of depth and talent, do the Bruins advance?
Yes.
Yes,
the
they do.
Yes.
They 100% do.
Because go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. So Bruce would not have panicked and jumbled all the lines around after Game 4, going into Game 5. He wouldn't have done that. So that's one thing. They would have played a more structured defensive game, I think. So that's another. The defense didn't have a lot of points in this series, so that wouldn't have been that's what they did all year. They had a bunch of points all year long, and in the series they didn't do any of that. So it's not like that would have been a big difference between Cassidy and Montgomery because they didn't do it in this series. The defense didn't score. So that would have been like what Cassidy had been doing all of last year. And he probably would have read them the riot act a few times and maybe snapped them out of some of the malaise that they were in, maybe called a timeout. He's just got more experience than Montgomery does as a head coach. And I think that showed when it mattered the most.
I think so too, and I think that Cassidy would have probably pulled Olmark. He probably would have played Swayman earlier in the series too, because he did it last year.
Yeah,
when he took Swayman, put Swayman in there, and they got to Game 7. He dragged them to Game 7. I thought with Carolina, they didn't win any road games, and I think that Bruce would have, like you said, put a little firecracker in their ass and got them going a few times when they really looked like. And Montgomery has even admitted that he's let the room handle it. And hasn't had to do a lot of that motivational stuff or that type of coaching. And I think that in this situation he had to do it, and that was my worry coming in at the end of the year. And I even mentioned on this podcast is, can Montgomery do those types of things in the playoffs? It's different. Can he take the reins and be assertive and make the changes that need to be made? And I think that he probably tried to, but it was in a weird, awkward fashion, and did it and overthought it, and was trying to take the reins from the leadership because they knew it was headed south, and he just didn't pull the right strings, and it was detrimental to the team. I think Cassidy gets them. Look, they didn't love Cassidy, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't have moved on from Cassidy, because obviously most of the guys in the room were just done with him, so they had to. I get it, but in this scenario, you need a guy like Cassidy, like Paul Maurice.
Yeah, I mean,
say, okay, this is what we're doing.
It was absolutely time for a new voice. I mean, it was. Coaches in the NHL go stale after a certain amount of time. It's just the way that it goes in the NHL. So they did need to move on. But in this instance, hypothetical that we're talking about here, Cassidy has more experience, and that makes a difference when the games are the biggest. We do have some comments from Mario. He says, shows you that the playoffs are a different animal, and it doesn't matter what you do during the season. Just saying. And he said, also, why not just start your number one goalie? Shake my head. I advocated for Swayman because I thought Olmark looked hurt to me. If he's healthy, if he was 100% healthy, I would have said, sure, go with Olmark. He's your Vezina winner, and he got you there. But I didn't think he looked good in Game 6 at all. I think he's hurt. I think he was laboring on some side to side pushes that he just didn't seem like he had the same mobility and would give you the best chance to win. In hindsight, you can say, if Olmark's in there, does he make some of these saves? Maybe, but he also let in, a softie in Game 6. So. And then Connor Green says Jim Montgomery shouldn't bother coming back.
Well, I mean, I learned this a long time ago in coaching. You never make any changes right after an emotional loss, because you'll fire everybody. Everybody
absolutely.
I've done that many times. But but Jim Montgomery, it'd be hard to let him go after 65 wins. And I think with the roster changes that are going to happen and some of the younger guys coming in, they want him to be the guy to bring the younger guys on. I don't think this was a great, showing by him in any stretch of the imagination. Hopefully he learns from it. But he's not. It's one of those situations. He's not a bad coach. In fact, he's probably a pretty good one. Yeah. But he just didn't have the experience, and it got away from him. And, I really believe he overcoached it when they came back for Game 5.
Yeah,
I just think he did.
Yeah, hopefully he'll learn from this, and going forward, he'll be a better coach for it, and hopefully, the Bruins will be a better team for it. Although it's going to be a drastically different looking team, as we move forward. And speaking of that, chirp number 7, where do the Bruins go from here?
Well, where do they go? Hawk Ballard just sent us a little comment that says, so where do we see ourselves next year? Playoffs again? I think they're a playoff team again next year, whatever moves they make. They have a core of really good players. Now, they're going to have to do some salary cap gymnastics.
They certainly are.
They will have a good team. They're not going to be first in the Atlantic, probably. They're not going to be first. They're not going to be the President's Trophy winner. But I think they'll be a playoff team. Where do they go from here? They got to make a decision on who they want to keep out of all their UFAs. They have to figure out with Frederick and Swayman, their RFAs, what that price point is. I think Freddie is arbitration eligible.
Mhm.
Swayman, is going to command. I mean, he's a $4 to $5 million goalie.
Yeah, he
So I don't
probably is.
know.
So
I don't know if that's one more year of one more bridge year and keep both of them, or you make a really hard decision on one or the other to keep those goalies. I would like to see them keep Bertuzzi. I was all in on Orlov. I'm less in on Orlov now, because if he's too overpriced, I think you let him go.
yeah, I'm all in on Bertuzzi as
Yeah.
well. I think you do whatever you can to sign that guy because he seems to relish kind of the way the Bruins play. He has a good chemistry with Pasternak. He's a playoff performer. Shows
Sure.
his first time in the playoffs this year. I
Cool.
mean, he was basically the Conn Smythe winner in the American League, whatever they call that, and won a Calder Cup with the Grand Rapid Griffins when he was in the Detroit Miners.
Yeah.
But he seems to rise to the occasion in the playoffs. So I'm doing whatever I can to keep that guy. I'm with you on Orlov. If the price is a lot more than 6,
I'll
you
give it
know,
to you.
I'm not doing that. I don't think for him
No.
because he's going to be 31, and you have maybe a Mason Lowry or some other guys maybe that could step in for cheaper money in order to sign guys like Frederick and Bertuzzi. So maybe unless you can get them kind of on a team friendly deal, I'd be willing to re-sign Orlov. But maybe you make a move with Allmark. Maybe it's a trade of Allmark, and you could get a substantial amount for him because he's coming off a Vezina Trophy. And you have Swayman as your number one guy, and you bring up Brandon Bussey or one of these guys, Kyle Kaiser, one of these guys from Providence, and kind of save a little bit of money there. They're going to have to figure some things out. We'll talk more about it in the offseason, but I do think they'll probably be a playoff team because you do have a pretty solid core still returning.
Yeah, you do, and I think that Elmark would be a real sort of ballsy move to trade him, but I think it might be the right move if they get the right return, and if they sign Swayman at a decent number, and you have Bussy or someone else get a veteran or something. You can't keep them both long term. I mean, you just can't have two $5 or $6 million goalies. You can't do it. DraftKings Sportsbook, Boston's hometown sportsbook, is live right here in Massachusetts. Bet local on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home with DraftKings. To celebrate, all new customers will receive up to $200 in bonus bets when you sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook using code ITR. You can now bet local on money line, spreads, props, and more with one of America's top-rated sportsbooks, DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up with the code ITR to get up to $200 in bonus bets to use now that mobile sports betting is live in Massachusetts. That's code ITR only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
If you or a loved one is experiencing problems with gambling, call 800-327-5050 or visit helplinema.org to speak with a trained specialist free and confidentially 24/7, 21 plus, physically present in Mass. Eligibility restrictions apply, subject to regulatory licensing requirements. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Opt-in required. Bonus issues as free bets. Terms at DraftKings.com/MA.
All right, beauties and benders, and the three beauties for this Game 7. Beauty number 3. Paul Maurice.
Gonna love you, eh? They're gonna be loving you from dawn until dusk.
I will just say this. Coming into the series, we kind of like Paul Maurice.
Yeah.
He has some cool memes, and he has some cool antics on the bench, and we kind of like the guy. And he pulled the right strings in this series. He kept the team together. He kept them fighting. He was able to bring in Bobrovsky at the right time when Alex Lyon was really struggling. And Bobrovsky didn't play great, but he made some really timely saves. The stats aren't terrific, but timely saves, like big-time saves that you need to win a series. So Maurice definitely, I would say, and I hate to say, outcoach this guy and outcoach that guy. I think that Maurice was the better coach, did a better job this series.
Absolutely, 100% true. Nothing you can say to refute that.
No. Beauty number 2, David Krejci.
Gonna love you, eh? They're gonna be loving you from dawn until dusk.
As you said before, playoff Krejci, in effect, a goal and 2 assists. He's responsible for all 3 goals, and this one shows up in the postseason. One of the best Bruins postseason performers we've had in a long, long time, and probably his last game as a Bruin. And we look forward to David Krejci night sometime soon.
We absolutely do. 46. You think 46 will be up in the rafters?
You know what? I would. I really would. And I think that, I looked through the players, and I think, was it Cashman?
Yeah.
Who has a similar career numbers-wise to Krejci. So
I think so too. I think he should be up there. And played 1,000 games. Really good player. Won a cup. So I think he deserves to be up there.
Yeah.
So
and then beauty number 1, someone who definitely deserves to be up there, Patrice Bergeron.
Gonna love you, eh? They're gonna be loving you from dawn until dusk.
Bergeron, the ultimate Bruin, on the Mount Rushmore of Bruins for sure. Played his entire career with Boston. If this is his last go of it, which it seemed to be at the end of the game tonight, he was just terrific. We went almost half our life, or a good 40% of our lives with Patrice Bergeron being a Boston Bruin, and we're old. So that says a lot about Bergeron, and a great two-way player. Should be a Selke winner again for 6. Should change the award to the Bergeron Award. And I hope they do, and he'll be up in the rafters, and just along with Ray Bourque and Bobby Orr, as far as long-time Bruins, great Bruins players, iconic Bruins players, he's certainly up there.
He is. Yeah, he deserves all the accolades. One of the best 200-foot players in the history of the league. He should, like you said, win his 6th Selke, a Stanley Cup champion, a surefire Hall of Famer. He did everything the right way. He's everything you would want in a captain and a Bruin. Just an unfortunate end if that's his last game.
Yeah, no question about it. We hope Berge comes back, and maybe he will. It all depends on how much he would want to right the wrongs of this series.
All right, so we'll move on to the Benders now. Number 3, the goaltending of the Boston Bruins.
The Bender.
Just not good enough. Just not good enough when it mattered the most. I thought just briefly when Swayman made the save on Tkachuk, I believe it was an overtime on the partial breakaway there.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's the save we needed. Now let's win this fucking thing. And sure enough, they lose a puck battle down low, which is the story of the series in Florida. Yeah, Tkachuk and Bennett, and they find Verhaeghe with an absolute snipe just short side under the bar. He was a sniper all year. He had 42 goals, and he found a spot and put it in the right place. But the goaltending overall just wasn't good enough. I mean, from all Mark's gaff that cost them in overtime in Game 5 to a couple of soft goals. It just wasn't good enough. Bobrovsky made the big saves, the timely saves. And the Bruins goaltenders, for the most part, didn't.
No, they didn't, and it went downhill as the series went on, and then there was a lot of indecision there, confusion. Was Allmark hurt? Should you put Swayman in? Waiting to the last minute to announce goaltenders before games, and it just didn't seem like they were that comfortable as a team. Really, the whole series it just seemed like they just weren't comfortable like they had been all year.
And speaking of uncomfortable, how about that Boston Bruins defense, Bender number 2?
The Bender.
They looked uncomfortable the entire series. I think it was the Florida forecheck. I mean, Lindholm looked kind of scared out there, like he didn't want to get hit. For the most part, all of the players, all of the defensemen were turning the puck over back there. Forward had some terrible games. Clifton was awful, especially in Game 6. I thought their two best defensemen, probably in their own end, were Grzelcyk and Carlo.
Yes,
of all people.
Right.
I mean, Orlov had some nice offensive plays. I think he had 5 or 6 assists in the series.
He did.
And McAvoy had 3 or 4 assists, but not enough from the defense when that was one of their hallmarks all year long was offense from the defense. They didn't get it. And then they were the best defensive team in the league all year, and they were just poor in their own end all series long, and it cost them. It cost them the series. Poor defense, bad decision making, and turnovers, and there you go. You lose a series that you probably should have won.
Yeah, I gave up 15 goals in the last 3 games, and I'm with you. I thought Brandon Carlo, for the most part, played a really good series. I thought he was, more confident with the puck. I thought he made more decisive plays with the puck. I thought he was more physical than he typically is. I thought he was clearing guys. Today, he threw someone against the boards from in front of the nets.
He did.
And they got a penalty for it, a matching penalty. But that's the type of play you wanted from Carlo. He looked really confident, I thought, and played a really solid series, I thought. And I thought when Grzelcyk was in there, he was fine. I mean, he only played, whatever it was, 12 minutes a game or whatever. Like we said, those guys aren't going to play a ton anyway. But you didn't noticeably say, Jesus, Grzelcyk is turning it over, or Grzelcyk doing this, or Grzelcyk getting, hemmed in, or he's getting beat up. I didn't see that at all. I thought we saw the good Grzelcyk. And those were the two guys. And if you said that at the beginning of the series, I would have said you were crazy.
Yeah.
And if they're your best two, you're in trouble.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. If you say, who are your best, if you go into the series or at the end of the series, you say your best two defensemen with Grzelcyk and Carlo, did you win or lose the series? You probably lost the series.
Yep.
Yeah. So, that's not what you're looking for. And it's not an indictment on those guys. It's an indictment on the rest of the defense that didn't really come to play, and live up to the expectation that the Bruins and the fans had for them.
Yeah.
All right. So Bender number 1 is this feeling right here.
Bender.
Yeah,
Hate it. I don't like it at all. I was nervous all day, and now I'm sick to my stomach, and I don't like it. I've been a Bruins fan all my life. I used to yell at the TV when I was a little kid, and my mother used to tell me that she would turn the TV off if I couldn't watch the game, and just because I would blow my stack as like an 8-year-old. I would be yelling at people to shoot, or why you doing this or whatever. So I've always been there, and I don't know if there's another team in town that when they lose, it puts me in as much of a bad mood. So this is gonna sting for a while. This is gonna take me a while to get over this, and I'm not gonna be outwardly vicious to anyone.
Right.
But just know that it's underneath. It's under the surface.
Yeah.
So if you needle me enough, my top is going to explode. I don't own any weapons, so you're lucky as far as that goes.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna lose my shit if someone pushes me the wrong way, like Michael Douglas and falling down or whatever.
If I don't get fired this week, it's a mini miracle, because someone's just gonna say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I said, hey, how about those Bruins? Because everybody knows I do a Bruins
Yeah.
podcast. If someone gives me one of those, look out, cook out.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be pretty.
No.
All right. So next game, sometime in fucking October. That's when it's going to be, because it's not going to be any time this week.
Nope.
As the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you know what? I just have this feeling that the Maple Leafs are going to win in like 4 or 5. That they're going to dust the Panthers.
Probably true. Probably true.
Letdown City, game 1, Leafs win 6-2. Letdown City for Florida, and Toronto just crushes them.
Well, Toronto, now that they got the monkey off their back, I think they're probably feeling a huge sense of relief.
And Boston's out.
Yeah.
Did you hear the fans?
Yeah, we want Florida. Well, they got them now. They got them. So, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, a huge sense of relief up there, and they, they don't have to face the Bruins.
I'll tell you
So
what, they're going to if they don't go to the Stanley Cup final, then they choke too. This is just a fantastic opportunity for them.
Yeah.
To go play in the Stanley Cup final and potentially win it this year. This is their year, and if they lose to Florida, then they should be just as ashamed, because they should beat Florida. Bruins affiliates playoff update. Hey, how about the Providence Bruins down 2 games tonight? Just full of good news here. They scored 1 goal in 2 games.
Yeah, it seems to run. Seems to be system wide. Seems to be organizationally wide.
Yeah. You know what was another kick in the ass was Anton Bleed scored for Hartford, the Wolfpack.
Great. Yeah.
So he scored a goal, and Providence Bruins down 2 games to none and have scored 1 goal in the first 2 games. Not much from Merkulov or Lysell, and not a great look. And the Maine Mariners lost 4 games to 2 to Reading, so they are out of the ECHL playoffs. Maine Mariners had a great year, and congrats to Terrence Wallen. Did a great job. Got a 2-year extension from it. and we look forward to talking to him. Maybe we'll have him on for a little year recap and see what's going on with them in the off season. Go to InsideTheRink.com for Bruins Benders merchandise. Follow us at Bruins Benders on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Download the Inside the Rink app. Go to Inside the Rink YouTube page and subscribe. You'll see our content there. Please rate and review on Apple and subscribe and follow on the podcast platform. Sign up for ESPN Plus at InsideTheRink.com/ESPN. And go to DraftKings Sportsbook, download the app, and use the code ITR to get $200 in bonus bets. We will see you a week from Wednesday. We'll need a little extra time. May the 10th, next episode. Thanks for listening all season long. We'll recap it in 10 days. Until then, try to sleep tonight.
Thanks a lot for staying with us all year long. No, seriously, thanks a lot for being with us all year long. We really appreciate everybody taking the time to listen to the podcast or watch us on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or any of those things. And we really appreciate everyone following along. And hopefully the Bruins can come back with a better effort next year. So thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Oh, Black Betty, bam-a-lam. Whoa, Black Betty, bam-a-lam. She really gets me high. Bam-a-lam, you know that's no lie. Bam-a-lam.